Let me tell you something that will flip everything you think you know about women. You don't get into her body by grabbing at her waist, flexing your muscles, or flashing your bank account. You get into her body by getting into her mind. And if you want to K her not just physically, but in a way that makes her crave you, chase you, and lose sleep thinking about you, you need to learn how to talk to her like a man who understands feminine energy. Most men go wrong from the very beginning because they don't understand that woman's true arousal doesn't start from her body, it begins in her mind. The first mistake men make is believing that women get turned on the same way they do, primarily through visual cues and physical contact, when in reality, women are much more mentally and emotionally driven. Seduction, if done right, is a psychological game before it becomes physical. If you can't speak in a way that engages her imagination, evokes curiosity, and creates emotional tension, you're missing the most important ingredient of attraction. A woman has to feel something when you talk to her, not just amusement or politeness, but a stirring of emotion, intrigue, and anticipation. When you approach her, your energy already speaks before you open your mouth. She reads your posture, your calmness, your gaze, and then she listens for congruence in your words. Are you in control of yourself? Are you present? Are your words hitting the surface, or are they slicing through the static and making her feel alive? A woman will be physically open to you only after you've mentally stimulated her. You can't force this with clever lines or tricks. It comes from a deep-rooted confidence in who you are and how you connect. You have to know how to use tone, timing, curiosity, and emotional intelligence in your speech. When you speak to her like she's more than her appearance, when you notice her essence and speak into her rather than at her, she begins to open. And that opening isn't just emotional, it's sensual. A woman who is mentally turned on by your presence, your voice, your energy, and your insight will begin to desire you on a level she doesn't even fully understand. She'll find herself wondering about you, thinking of your voice, replaying your words. That's the foundation of attraction. When your words light up her imagination, when your conversations draw out her passions, fears, and fantasies, she starts to connect you with desire. She sees you as a man who gets her, who awakens parts of her that she hides from the world. And in that psychological bond, the physical becomes not only natural, it becomes inevitable. If you can make her feel deeply seen and emotionally excited just through the way you speak to her, you'll realize that seduction has far less to do with how you touch her and far more to do with how you move her with your words. A critical error men make when trying to attract a woman is approaching her like a salesman trying to pitch a product. You see it all the time, men trying to impress women with their job title, income, car, lifestyle, gym routine, or number of followers. But what they don't realize is that the more they try to sell themselves, the less desirable they appear. Why? Because trying to convince a woman that you're valuable is a neon sign that says, "I'm not sure I'm valuable unless you validate me." Confidence doesn't need an advertisement. The men who truly attract women don't walk around rattling off their resume. They walk in quiet certainty, and their presence does the speaking for them. Instead of trying to prove their worth, they let women discover it. The moment you start listing your achievements, talking over her, and trying to win her with your status, you lose the natural polarity that fuels attraction. Women don't want to feel like they're being recruited or closed like a business deal. They want to feel chosen intuitively and organically. The most magnetic men understand this, and they let the woman's curiosity rise naturally. They don't dominate conversations, they guide them. They don't over-explain who they are. They allow the woman to experience who they are through calm, grounded, unforced interaction. When a man listens deeply, responds thoughtfully, and holds his emotional composure, it communicates far more than a flashy story ever could. It says, "I know who I am, and I don't need you to validate that." That's what women crave. The man who isn't performing, isn't convincing, isn't proving. He's simply being, and in that being, he becomes alluring. Selling yourself doesn't mean talking yourself up. It means showing up fully in your essence and trusting that your energy will speak for you. When you approach a woman from that place, you're no longer competing with other men, you're existing in a completely different category. You're not just another guy trying to impress her. You're the man she's trying to figure out, understand, and be around more because your self-assurance, not your status, made her feel something real. And when a woman feels that emotional pull, she chases, not because you asked her to, but because you gave her no other choice. One of the most powerful things a man can offer a woman is calm, grounded leadership in how he speaks. Most men talk too fast, interrupt, over-explain, or try to dominate the conversation in ways that feel either aggressive or anxious. But when a man speaks with calm certainty, slowly, intentionally, and with just the right amount of silence, he creates a magnetic pull. His voice becomes a rhythm she can relax into. Confidence isn't loud, it's controlled. It's not in how much you say, but in how you say it. When you speak to a woman from a grounded place, without rushing, without trying to entertain, without looking for approval, she senses a man who is emotionally secure. And emotional security is one of the sexiest, most attractive qualities a man can possess. It creates safety, and safety is the gateway to surrender. The feminine wants to let go, but only when it trusts that the masculine can hold the container. So when you speak with authority and clarity, "I'll pick you up Thursday at 8, I've got a place you'll love," you aren't being controlling, you're being decisive. You're creating a direction for her to relax into. Women constantly deal with men who are either unsure or overly aggressive, and both feel unstable. But a man who can walk that fine line between clarity and calm becomes magnetic. He becomes the man who doesn't need to impress, he simply expresses. His tone is confident, his eye contact is steady, his presence is full, and his silence is just as potent as his speech. He doesn't fill every gap with noise. He doesn't rush to react. He lets his words land. That silence between sentences, that's where the tension builds. That's where the intrigue lies. When you lead a conversation with emotional control and precision, you activate something primal in a woman, something that says, "I can trust this man to lead." And that trust creates permission for emotional vulnerability, which deepens connection. Eventually, that connection becomes arousal, not just because of what you said, but because of how you made her feel in the process. Speaking with calm, masculine energy doesn't just get her attention. It gets under her skin. A deeply underestimated but profoundly powerful way to connect with a woman is to lean into emotional attunement and demonstrate the rare ability to make her feel seen, heard, and understood. This doesn't mean becoming overly emotional or trying to act like her therapist. Rather, it means cultivating the kind of empathetic presence that makes her feel safe enough to express herself without judgment or interruption. Most men miss this golden opportunity because they either dismiss a woman's emotional expression as irrelevant or they try to fix it with logic, which immediately creates a disconnect. But the man who knows how to sit in a conversation with a woman, look into her eyes, and say with his entire energy, "I see you," becomes unforgettable. Women aren't moved by facts. They're moved by feelings. If you can reflect back to her what she's trying to say in a way that validates her inner world, that sounds like it really meant something to you, or "I imagine that was tough," You bypass the surface and go straight to the emotional core. And here's the secret. Once a woman opens up to you emotionally, her body starts to follow. Emotional safety for a woman is arousing because it allows her to drop her armor. It allows her to stop performing and start feeling. And when she's in a space where she's feeling, she starts to associate that emotional freedom with you. You become the man she connects with peace, vulnerability, and intimacy. You become the man who listens not just with his ears, but with his presence. And that kind of man becomes rare. Women are bombarded with surface-level conversations every day, but when a man comes along who engages her mind and honors her emotional depth without trying to change or fix her, she will start to crave him. Not because he did something flashy, but because he gave her the permission to be fully herself. That emotional resonance becomes a powerful trigger for attraction. She begins to want to be around you, to open more, to share more, and eventually to give more. And when a woman gives from a place of emotional trust, it's not mechanical or obligatory. It's passionate, sensual, and real. So if you want to speak in a way that leads to her wanting you sexually, start by speaking in a way that makes her feel emotionally held. Because once a woman feels safe enough to open her soul, opening her body becomes the most natural next step. Playful tension and flirtation are the lifeblood of seduction. Without it, conversations become bland, friendly, or worse, boring. If you want to get into her mind in a way that eventually leads to the bedroom, you need to know how to flirt with finesse. Flirtation isn't about being cheesy or aggressive. It's about creating just enough heat in the air to keep her leaning in, wondering what you'll say next. It's the art of balancing compliments with teasing, curiosity with mystery, and presence with unpredictability. Women love men who know how to make them laugh and blush at the same time. A simple line like, "Oh, so you're trouble, huh?" delivered with a smirk and a pause, says way more than an explicit statement ever could. That's because flirtation plays on the edge of what's said and what's unsaid. It keeps things exciting. It awakens her imagination. It puts her in a state of anticipation, which is where arousal lives. A man who flirts well doesn't need to talk about sex directly because his energy already carries it. He uses subtext, eye contact, body language, pauses, tone, and storytelling to evoke desire. He turns the most ordinary interaction, choosing a drink, walking down the street, or joking about her taste in movies, to a slow build of tension, and that's where the magic lies, in the slow burn. Rushing into sexual conversations too quickly kills the vibe, but planting small seeds of flirtation and letting them grow makes her feel like she's the one falling into the moment, not being pushed into it. This gives her agency, and when a woman feels like she's choosing to escalate, it heightens the experience tenfold. The most powerful flirtation feels effortless but intentional. It makes her feel alive, curious, and slightly off, balance in the best way. When she starts laughing more, leaning in, touching her hair, mirroring your movements, or lightly touching you, those are signs she's responding to your energy. Keep the dance going, let the tension simmer. Don't rush to the finish line, because flirtation isn't just a means to an end, it's foreplay in its own right. And when done well, it lays the groundwork for a sexual connection that feels earned, electric, and unforgettable. A woman who's been mentally teased and emotionally warmed up is already halfway to craving you physically. So flirt with intelligence, not desperation, and let your words dance with hers in a way that lights her up inside. The final and perhaps most transformational shift in how to talk to a woman you want sexually is understanding the power of suggestion and anticipation. You don't need to talk explicitly about sex to make a woman think about it. You just need to lead her mind in that direction with subtlety and finesse. The most powerful seducers know that when you suggest instead of demand, when you hint instead of describe, when you invite instead of pressure, you create a space where her mind fills in the blanks. And women love filling in the blanks. Sexual anticipation is built on suggestion. A man who can say, "I had a dream about you last night, but I probably shouldn't tell you what it was," and then leave it there, has done more to arouse her than a man who details his fantasies outright. Why? Because now her mind is doing the work. Her imagination becomes your co-conspirator.